Hey, what's up, everybody? It's just Charles Sebastian, and welcome you guys to another episode of the DREAMERSPRO show. We cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a hell of a show for you guys. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel, and be sure to hit all notifications to be notified the second we publish our content. So yesterday, a video was sent to me from the interview on Gil's Arena featuring with the guest Mark Jackson, right? Now, funny enough, I had seen bits and pieces of it, but I hadn't seen it in its entirety. So he sends me this clip where he essentially said, listen, did you get a chance to hear Mark Jackson pushing back on JJ Redick's comments that he made about, you know, Michael Jordan's era and it being watered down and all of that stuff? Did you get a chance to hear it? And I'm like, no, I didn't really hear it. So he sent me the timestamp where he wanted me to go hunt down the information from, and I went to the clip to go listen to it. And then I found it. Now, some of you may be saying, okay, what did JJ Redick said? So what we want to do is want to quickly play what JJ Redick had to say before on when he was talking to Shaq on a big podcast, because that's what got people reacting. And then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to what JJ Redick had to say here.
It's one of the reasons that LeBron is so great. I have refused, literally, and people will be like, you said this in 2017 when you played against him. Well, no, I was playing against him. Of course I said he was the best player ever. I refuse to get into the GOAT debate. I don't care. They didn't play against each other. I do not care. What makes him great, well, a bunch of things, but what has made him great is the fact that he's done it now for 21 years at the highest level. Like, you talk about scoring, that's great. So one guy averaged 35 a year. Yeah, LeBron's never averaged 35 in a year. Guess what? He's averaged 25 or more for 20 straight years. No one's had more than 15 of those years. Like, that to me is, he's a scorer. But again, it looks differently. He plays differently. So it's all in the eye of the beholder.
LeBron is great to me because he's always done it the right way. When I played with LeBron, he was the greatest young leader I've ever seen.
Man, stop stealing stuff from my podcast.
No,
man.
he was. No, like, because when I mean, listen, I know he was, and I'm such a dominant personality. Like, I'm the guy that no matter what team I'm going to, this is my, nobody says. But when I got there, like, he just ran it so perfectly. The way he treated the guys, the way he treated the organization, the way he was coached, the way he looked out for guys, like, I don't even have to do nothing. And, you know, we definitely had a chance to win. We were in first the whole year, and Big Baby with his wild broke my hand. I had to be out for 6 weeks, and we came out and then lost to Boston. I wish I wouldn't have had that absence away from LeBron, but he was one of the greatest young leaders that I've always seen. So he will always be in that conversation. The only thing I don't like about the conversation is they don't put my boy's name in it. You're right, I don't get who either. But if you're going to be throwing names around, you got to have my boy's name in it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Dwight?
That's like, yeah, Dwight. That's like saying, what are the best luxury cars out there? Lexus or a Beamer? You got to put the Mercedes in there too.
Yeah.
Just I don't like. I'm with you. I don't care.
I truly don't.
But Mike, LeBron, or Kobe, now y'all debate. That's all I say about it.
I think it's fair to just say there are different tiers of greatness. And you could, by the way, like, I think it's fair even to be like, who's your Mount Rushmore? Who's your 4 greatest, or who's your 5 greatest? Who's your 10 greatest? Whatever it may be. Like, we're nitpicking. By the way, a lot of times we're comparing eras, we're comparing different rules, we're comparing the fact that, look, like, I'll say this with Michael Jordan, and I don't mean this to be controversial, but like, everybody talks about all these, the context of this era. Michael Jordan, the Dallas Mavericks were added as the 23rd team in 1981. Jordan was drafted. During his heyday, 6 teams were added to the NBA. There were 90 players added to the NBA. Like, that does that not water down? I'm not talking playoffs, by the way. No chance we're talking playoffs. Does that not water down the regular season to a degree? You lived it, right? You played against some of those teams. You played against the Bobcats, right? When they first came out.
Yeah.
Like, if we add 2 teams, in 2 or 3 years, we get a Vegas franchise or a Seattle franchise, you're not telling me that the league for a little bit is going to be a little watered down?
Maybe a little bit.
So you heard JJ's original comments. So while Mark Jackson was on the panel, they asked him to weigh in on what JJ had to say and what he believes about Michael Jordan in terms of his GOAT status. And in typical Mark Jackson form, he did not disappoint whatsoever. So for those of you who didn't hear what Mark Jackson had to say on Gil's Arena, I want to play exactly what he had to say for you now. I want to come back and react to his comments. Take a listen to what he had to say here.
So, Mark, one more thing I want to get to you on before we hit up Mostly Fans. So, J.J. Redick was on Shaq's podcast recently, talked about how MJ's prime was watered down in the NBA due to expansion. You came into the league a season before the first wave of expansion with the Hornets and Heat debuting in 1988 and Magic and T-Wolves in 1989. What impact did expansion have on the quality of competition in the league in the early stages? And would you say that the league was watered down, or do you disagree with that statement?
I disagree. Yes. I disagree.
Point for Gilbert.
I mean, you had very good talent on those teams. You can go back and you look at those teams that came into the league and the way that they picked guys off of different rosters throughout the league, signed free agent, had draft choices. There's no disrespect to Michael Jordan. I mean, Michael Jordan is the GOAT. He's the GOAT. I don't care who he played against. He's the GOAT. He played against legit dudes. And I can say if there's 25, 30 teams in the league in 1990, there's a bunch of max players if you fast forward and bring them in 2024 on every single roster. You can't tell me that's not a max guard over there, that's not a max power forward, that's not a max combo guard over here. I'm just a regular dude. But the bottom line is the talent level can't be debated. So I understand what JJ was trying to say. And sometimes we say things to draw the attention. Michael Jordan, there's only 5 people alive that played against, 5 people in history that played against Jordan, LeBron, and Kareem. And I'm fortunate enough to be one of them. Michael Jordan is the GOAT basketball player. And he's the reason why a lot of guys don't have jewelry and they put the work in. A lot of greats. That's why I don't believe that everybody that don't win a championship is not a champion. And there's some dudes that got rings they're not champions.
So you heard what Mark Jackson had to say. What are my thoughts on his comments? Listen. JJ Redick thinks he's slick, but a lot of his contemporaries called him out. What some people fail to understand is that JJ Redick has a bias. And his bias informs the opinions that he gives and the information he shares and the information he chooses to withhold. So in that particular instant, when he was talking about the league being watered down and expansion teams and all of that, he refused. He also chose not to include, when he started adding teams, number one, they were getting drafting from other teams, NBA teams. Number two, you know one of those teams that they drafted? Do you know who had on it? You ever heard of the player Shaquille O'Neal? You ever heard of Penny Hardaway? You ever heard of those guys? Yeah, those were one of the teams, the Orlando Magic. So as they were adding all of these teams, those were the players that were appearing in the NBA arena that Jordan was going up against. The Shaqs of the world. People forget, Jordan faced a young Shaq who was quite dominant, my boy. Very, very dominant. So a lot of NBA players called him out on that particular point. Listen, I cannot take JJ Redick seriously when it comes to this GOAT debate and this era debate and all of that. I just can't. Too many people, too many respectable figures in sports have disputed the vast majority of what he had to say. Too many respectable voices, too many, for me to say, okay, this guy is a credible source of information when it comes to these things. He's not. Too many people. And I'm not just talking about run-of-the-mill NBA players. We're talking about Pantheon guys. Dominique Wilkins, Jerry West, some of the greatest defenders of all time, Michael Cooper, Bob Cousy, and other contemporaries like Bonzi Wells, Rasheed Wallace, and other guys. And the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on of players that have disputed. I think Gilbert Arenas disputed him as well. But the list is going on and on and on and on of people that have disputed JJ Redick. JJ Redick works for LeBron James, man. He doesn't work for him, but that's his boy. And that's what he's here to prop up. I'm really getting into the GOAT debate and then immediately get into why this guy shouldn't be considered the GOAT if you're looking at this. That's what he's doing. That is exactly what he did. What I'm happy for is that now people see through it. He ain't convincing nobody, in my personal view. They're not convincing me. They're not convincing people that are like-minded, that think the way I think on this issue. We're not being convinced of it. Nice try, but I think you got to try a little bit harder. These are my thoughts. What I want to know from you guys, what do you think about the information that was put forward? What do you think about Mark Jackson's perspective on this topic? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. We catch you guys on the next show. Peace.